residents of Anguilla. The members of the opposition in the House of Assembly are aware of the updates that have taken place over the course of the last 24 hours. There is the COVID 19 0121 update from Her Excellency the Governor and the Honorable Premier. There was also the 11th statement from the Ministry and Department of Education on confirmed COVID 19 cluster. And we know at this time of the day that there is a 14-day stay-at-home order that comes into effect at 11 p.m. this evening in relation to all all non-essential workers. And as members of the opposition, we wanted to weigh in and to have a brief conversation or speak briefly with the public with respect to where we are. Where we are is that we, as a whole, all of the members support the government of Anguilla during this time. Having been there at a time when we closed the borders first in March of 2020, we certainly acknowledge, understand, and appreciate the difficult decisions that this government has to make and the concerns of the people of Anguilla. And I just wanted to ask for your patience, your continued support for the government of Anguilla. I want you to stay safe, stay at home pursuant to the directions that have been given by the government, and continue to practice all of the necessary protocols. Frequent hand washing, mask wearing, and do everything that is necessary to keep yourselves and your family safe. But more importantly at this time, we're going through another difficult period in Anguilla's history, but it is not unknown for us to go through difficult periods as Anguillians. And as long as we continue to abide by the protocols, to continue to stay abreast of what's taking place in Anguilla, and continue to remind ourselves that this too shall pass, we will come out on the other side. And I also, before I turn it over to the former Minister of Health, the Honorable Mr. Evan McNeil Rogers, I want to say that we have to continue to ensure that we support each other and we support the government of Anguilla at this time. And so for the residents of District 2 in particular, I ask that you continue to do everything that is necessary to ensure that you remain yourselves safe and your families safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Cora. A pleasant good evening to those who are listening and viewing via your Facebook page, Lloyd, and all the contacts that you would have out there. I too would like to place on record my support, my unwavering support for the position and for the decision that the government of the day, the government of Anguilla, has made with respect to the situation with COVID here in Anguilla. I listened to the press conference with the Premier, Minister of Health, along with the Permanent Secretary of Health and the Chief Medical Officer. And I am very concerned, and I am hoping and praying that my greatest fears does not come to a reality, my greatest fear. Clusters, a cluster, yes, has been confirmed in Anguilla. And based on my limited knowledge, when we do have a cluster, more than likely, we have to try and contain that cluster. But again, it is when the testing, the identification of the individuals in that cluster would have been identified. In other words, the cluster could have been identified, but the spread could have already taken place. And I'm hoping that that is not the case here in Anguilla. I can very well remember last year in March when we had to make the decision to close down Anguilla. The uncertainty then in terms of individuals wearing masks, social distancing, washing of hands and the sanitizing of our hands and so on and so forth. As strange as it may have been at that particular point in time, I got the feeling that we let down our guard as time passed by, and as a result of that, it is coming back now, I believe, to haunt us. Um, the social distancing and the wearing of masks, it would seem as if though we were sort of ignoring that over the last few months. Um, I am just hoping that in terms of identifying that cluster, we'd be able to do the contact tracing, because this is a very, very small society and we all intermingle with each other. And over the last few months in particular, I have echoed this on our program that we have on Monday midday at Radio Anguilla, how concerned I am with respect to what I would call the total moving away from the protocol. What I would want to do is to emphasize how important it is to be able to follow the protocols. The government and the Ministry of Health and the Health Authority, they are doing as good a job as you can expect of them with the limited resources that they have. This cluster that has been identified, I am sure, would put a strain on the human resource capacity in terms of the testing, in terms of monitoring those who tested positive, those who are in isolation, and so on and so forth. So I am appealing to the general public, please, in this time of uncertainty. It may be late, but better late than never, for us to go back to the situation last year with the uncertainties, where we all were concerned and we all did what we were supposed to do at that particular point in time and help to keep the country as safe as it was. I'm very concerned about the present situation, because my limited knowledge would tell me that once there's a cluster, that may be just the tip of the iceberg. And I am here in my capacity as a former Minister of Health and a member of the parliamentary opposition to appeal to all Anguillians. We must be vigilant. We must definitely follow the protocols that the government has put in place, and we must do what is absolutely necessary in terms of those protocols. Washing of hands, wearing of the mask, social distancing, and so on and so forth. I would have heard that the present government would have warned us against, and as a matter of fact, they didn't say close down. They said pause, to put a pause. But I believe that it is time for us, not knowing the extent of the cluster and community spread as yet, that we really and truly should put a closure or close down until we are able to deal with what's happening. Yes, the essential services and so on and so forth. And I'm appealing to people, if you don't have to come out, really and truly, stay at home. Limit the gatherings and so on and so forth. And, leaders must lead. And I believe that, and I'm hoping that the government would take this opportunity in the Ministry of Health to really and truly close down what we call the strip here, seeing that we are putting restrictions to gatherings of 5 or more and so on. Close it down. We are, they would have said that in terms of church gatherings and so on, a limit of 5 and so on and so forth. Wherever there are clusters of individuals, gatherings, I should say, not clusters, gatherings of individuals, really and truly the government, we need to step it up and close them down until we are able to get a grip of what's happening. We know the incubation period is 2 weeks. You can be exposed today or tomorrow and test negative the next day. Within 2 weeks, you can show up as positive. We've had the situations here in Anguilla where our visitors would have arrived on island with a negative COVID, would have tested negative here in Anguilla on arrival, and when they were returning to their homes, they would have tested positive. So it is a very, very, very difficult time for us. There is still a lot of unknowns, and we are very limited in terms of the healthcare services and isolation facilities that we have here in Anguilla. There's only one 24-hour facility here in Anguilla, which is the Princess Alexandra Hospital. And God forbid if an employee of that particular facility comes down, turns out to be positive. I mean, the contact tracing and so on and so forth. And I'm hoping that the authorities, in terms of the health authority, would move quickly in terms of securing the hospital, in terms of visiting hours, in terms of the patients and so on and so forth, to be able to keep us here as safe as possible. It is not a very good time for us here in Anguilla, and I must admit that I am very concerned and I am very worried. So I'm appealing to my citizens, please let us do what is absolutely necessary and critical for us. Whether it's a community spread, we can cluster, we can put a clamp on it pretty quickly so that we'll be able to, again, be free, COVID-free here in our beautiful island. But I'm concerned, very concerned, and support the present government, the Premier, and the Ministry of Health for the work that they have done already and will continue to do so that we can get a hand on this thing.
Good evening, everyone. Cardigan Connor, representative for West End. I too stand with my colleagues to say that we're very much in support of what the government of Anguilla has done today to say that over the next 2 weeks that there is a quarantine period for all of us in Anguilla, pretty much. I think what is important for us to really appreciate and understand is that this has been a fear for the last 12 months. I know when we were in office, especially when we first closed down, when there were those who felt we could have still carried on. The fact was the danger signs of our limited resources at that time meant that we'd have had a major catastrophe had we been hit by what we have today, a cluster. And a cluster within Anguilla is almost like community spread. I think we often talk about 6 degrees of separation, United States or Europe, but in Anguilla with our small population, it means that there's so many of us have got contacts directly or indirectly with anybody who would have come down with COVID-19. So we're at a stage now, and as it was back then, and in March of 2020, where it is about the health of our people. You know, there were concerns about the economy, but I think that message was not quite the right message to send out there. The fact was that all of a sudden, health, and has always been the most important. For a number of the persons who've had their first and second shots, I say to you, congratulations. To those who today would have turned up for their first, it was a case of a wait and see. I think right now what has happened is that you've got a kickstart. What happened today made you realize, rather than wait and see, it is a case of being ahead of the curve. For those who, for whatever reason, will not take the vaccine, we totally understand that you've got those issues that you have to deal with as well. But for anybody out there who've got no reason whatsoever, who are searching for excuses not to take the vaccine, I can't force you to do it. No one can force you to do it. But if it's about the health of you, your family members, it is vitally important that you do. You know, in fact, last night, a member of my community got in a serious accident and has to be flown out today. Again, he will have to travel with someone. The chances are wherever they will be going, it's very likely that it will require a vaccination. So here in Anguilla, we've had the opportunity. It's been available to us, but it's a case of too many have said wait and see rather than say I am ready. As elected members, whether in opposition or in government, we were prepared on day one to put our shoulders, or left side or right side, whichever side that got injected, to say that we're prepared to go out and show you that we're prepared to do it. Not just ask you to do it, but show you that we're prepared to do it as well. All I ask of you is just to continue to be safe, not just for the 2 weeks ahead, but for the years ahead. The better prepared we are, means the better chance we've got of survival. So my people, we pray to God that we can control this in its early stages, and that as we go forward, we are still in a better position than most of the other countries. I thank you.
Thank you. I just also want to touch base very quickly in relation to the vaccines. And over the last few weeks, Mr. Rogers and I on our talk show, Just the Facts, every Monday at 12 noon, have spoken repeatedly about the vaccine and encouraging persons to take it. Now, I know in recent times the government will have issued a press release speaking about mandatory vaccinations, and persons have various views about that. And while as members of the opposition, we may not have agreed in terms of the approach, in terms of making vaccinations mandatory, we understand the intent and the goal of the government of Angola to try to encourage persons as much as possible to be able to take the vaccine. But I think that the focus has to be on health of yourself and health of your family. And so for those of you that are not sure, questioning, what I would suggest is that you contact your doctor first and foremost. If you have a pre-existing condition, if you have concerns with respect to anything, the medications, etc., and you feel that you are not sure whether or not you're going to have adverse effects, then I would highly suggest that you contact your doctor first. But when you weigh the pros and cons, it is for me, and what was said to me in actual fact was whether or not that it was better for me to take the vaccine than for me to get COVID. And so that has always remained at the forefront of my mind, and in terms of my making a decision to take the vaccine. And so I would encourage persons as well. It is not for the primary focus has to be on the health of yourselves and of your family, because if you have a grandparent, an elderly person that resides in your home, that person is more susceptible. If you have children that are in your home, if you have to engage with persons in the community and you have to move around for whatever reason, then you yourself become very open to the possibility of contracting. And it may be somewhere simple. It could be in the grocery store. It could be, at a function. And so you want to take all of these things into consideration. And right now, we have an adequate supply of vaccines on island to be able to take care of up to 12,000 persons on island. And so take advantage. Do not wait until it's too late. Many persons have been saying that they want to sit back and wait a while. I think that the wait is now. The wait has come to an end, and now is the time for you to be able to go out and if you, like I said, if you have questions, contact your doctor. But now is the time that you need to look at taking the vaccine for the protection of yourself and your family.
Again, I would like to reiterate the position of the honorable leader of the opposition in terms of vaccination. We're here and we would have already had our first jab. You would have had your second jab as well, both of you all. I would have had my first, and next week heading back to get my second jab. And to let the people know that even during this slowdown or pause or lockdown, that vaccination will still be available. And I'm sure that the Ministry of Health and the Health Authority would make that available to the citizenry of this country. I must admit, I am always optimistic about certain things, but I don't have a very good feeling about the present situation here. It is what it is, but we have to approach this sensibly, and we have to approach this with commitment and conviction in order to be able to prevent the spread or to contain the clusters and so on and so forth. Because of our intimacy, so to speak, we all use the same gas stations, same supermarkets, and so on and so forth. And as I mentioned before, we only have one 24-hour facility here. Of course, the entertainment and the soft openings of some of the restaurants and so on and so forth. I am hoping that and praying that the government would issue a stern warning in terms of whether it's a pause, but a close down of those places that you would have more than 5 people gathered. the churches and so on and so forth, because we have to get out of this, and we have to be able to do it responsibly. At the end of the day, this is not APM, AUF, or political situation. This is about Anguilla and our existence, our survival, and our healthiness here in this country. So again, my appeal is to the people of Anguilla all over. This is serious. This is a serious issue, and we must take it on board and work together to be able to try and eliminate what is here and to prevent the spread of it. So I thank you all very much thank you, Lloyd, for giving us this opportunity to air our position with respect to that.
Thank you very much, Lloyd, as well. And I would encourage everyone as we leave, as we come to an end, to keep calm, stay safe, observe all of the protocols, and we will make it through. Okay. Thank you very much.